their constituents are very similar. They're all made from the same, the same ingredients. And yet there is a wealth of variety. When they grow, their stems are different, their leaves are different, their flowers and fruits are different, their properties are different. A wealth within an absolute poverty and dryness, like the poverty of trees and the soil in winter, and their glittering wealth and riches in the spring. Like in the winter, it looks like dead wood. And the soil is just dry earth. And then suddenly there is in spring all kinds of life and forms and colors, and subhanallah. So there is life, and this life is coming with power, with knowledge, with wisdom, with the sprinkling of an absolute life are also apparent within an absolute lifelessness. It is the lifelessness that acts like a mirror to the life that is reflecting, that is manifesting. Clearly, this life is not from the lifeless elements and things around us. Like the transformation of the elements into living matter. All of them are lifeless, and lo and behold, they come together and something alive comes out. There is moreover the manifestation of an all-encompassing consciousness within an absolute ignorance. Each of the things involved is ignorant. So if there is no knowledge, there can't be consciousness, yet the result is clearly demonstrate that it is done knowingly, wisely, consciously. From minute particles to the stars, like from small things to the biggest things, acting consciously and conforming to the order, to the laws of the universe and to the demands of wisdom and requirements of life. Thus, this power within powerlessness and strength within weakness and wealth and riches within poverty and life and consciousness within lifelessness and ignorance necessarily and self-evidently open up windows on every side onto the necessary existence and unity of, so it's not the necessary existence and unity of there must be one creator. No, of now we know because we looked, we saw, of a possessor of absolute power and absolute strength, a possessor of absolute riches, and absolutely knowing, all living, self-sufficient one. In their totality, all beings, all things point to a luminous highway on a vast scale. And of course, he's saying, "Oh, you heedless one who has fallen into the swamp of nature," because when we are in ghafla, when we are in heedlessness, when we are not consciously and intentionally looking and seeing all these things, then we are either assuming or by default we are taking it for granted. We're not even aware that we are taking it. That nature, somehow nature, things, it's happening, it's natural. Of course, trees grow in spring. Yeah, this is spring and things like that. So that's the default shirki way of being. And that's why we need to do conscious work to get out of that swamp of nature that we will find ourselves in, whether we like it or not, whether we are aware of it or not, if we do not follow consciously the guidance of the Quran and look and see the manifestation of this absolute power and strength and wealth and riches and knowingness and life and giving of life everywhere. He says, if you do not quit nature and recognize divine power, remember at the very beginning, all things are in need of a single, all-glorious creator in everything. They are in need of him in everything, in all matters, in all circumstances. If we don't quit nature and recognize divine power, now recognizing divine power doesn't mean, oh yeah, of course, there must be something. Recognizing divine power means confirming it, means testifying to it, means witnessing it, means experiencing it. Experiencing it comes at first, fil afaq. Remember, that's the first ayah at the beginning of this 33 windows. In the outer world, we see this. And then in our inner world, we also will find the all-powerful within our powerlessness, his strength within our weakness, his being the all-living giver of life in our lifelessness. I mean, life is only given to us. We are always between life and death, in the sense that life is not inherent to us. It comes through us. We're just recipients. We're beneficiary of it. It says, if you recognize divine power, if you don't recognize divine power, you have to accept that in everything, in every single thing, in every minute particle even, reside an infinite force and power, a boundless wisdom and skill, and the ability to see, know, and administer most other beings. This principle has been explained in previous windows, the principle of interconnectivity. Everything is interconnected in a way that for one single particle to exist, there needs to be the whole universe as it is. So the maker of one thing has to be the maker of everything. To make one thing, you have to know everything. You have to have the power to control everything, to bring into existence and sustain the existence of everything. So if there is not one single source for everything, then each one has to have the power to control everything and make them, subjugate them to its own needs. Each one needs to be both at the same time. At the same time, it needs to have all-encompassing power and knowledge and wisdom and all that. At the same time, it needs to be at the service of everything else, which is totally unreasonable, doesn't make sense, illogical, neither reason nor the heart nor the soul accept such a reasoning. The only, and this has all been discussed in the previous windows, the only thing that makes sense to both reason and logic and to the heart is that everything is under the control of one single being, one single source that sends everything to the help of one thing, that put them all in interconnection with everything else, not only in time, not only in space, but also in time. So I'll stop here and how do you read this? What does it, when do you read this? Do you have any question, any comment, any feeling, anything? What is the impact it has on you? Please go ahead and share.
For me, the phrase of where it says, "Oh, you heedless one who has fallen into the swamp of nature," like that jumped out at me. I think it's maybe just the juxtaposition of like swamp and nature, and like you were saying, from what I understood, like when I see the, you know, after winter when the trees are like starting to grow leaves again and everything's getting green. Yeah, I think my initial reaction is like, oh, spring is here. And I don't think I really, yeah, I think I'm giving power to like the changing of the season, and it's spring and this is why it's all happening. So this is kind of,
it's normal. This is how
yeah, like it's just so natural. Like I feel like it's so natural just to say that. It's just an instinct. And I've never thought of stopping to catch myself and to really kind of dig a little deeper into that.
Yeah. So you can see that we really need the guidance and the teaching of the Quran. It's really something that we could not fathom on our own.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
So just to clarify, so the quitting the nature here refers to like not giving power, you know, creative power to nature, right? Not that, you know,
Yes.
you know, the way we look and we think, we talk about nature, like there are so many ways, right? So we're still, you know, yeah. So I just wanted, you know, maybe for myself and others, and just to clarify, you know, what is meant by nature and quitting nature.
Yeah, as Zahra was saying, like it's natural. This is the nature of things. It happens. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I guess so. That's what I was thinking. So, quitting nature, you know, as I took it, was like avoid giving power, right? You know, because yeah, to just nature out there.
Actually, yeah. It's not a matter in practice. Practically in life, we are not going to avoid giving power to nature. There is no such a thing. There is when we learn to look and see and testify to the beautiful names of God in the creation, then by default, we will not have fallen into the swamp of nature. So, because we cannot avoid nature when we don't have another explanation, because we are created, we are beings that seek, created with the need for meaning. And so we are always, whether we do it consciously or unconsciously, we're always giving meaning to things and explaining them, interpreting them somehow. So when we are not consciously confirming, seeing, witnessing divine power in everything, then by default, we are giving it to something other than God. So there is no way to avoid that except by consciously learning to read everything as ayat indicating reflecting, mirroring the beautiful names of God. Does it make sense?
Yes, inshallah.
If no one is sharing, then I'll ask a question. Maybe you can discuss it in groups. Whoever is putting people in groups can keep the time, inshallah.
May I share something first?
Sure, go ahead, please.
Sorry to interrupt. So I found the contrast between powerlessness and absolute power, and lifelessness in things interesting. I know it's not a new, I know Nursi talks about this a lot, and you talk about it a lot as well. However, maybe here in this text, it made me pause, and it made me think, okay, what's going on with atheists or with the polytheists? Then do they not see this contrast? And normally I don't approach faith through, like, I have very little interest in physical science, actually. It's not that I don't believe in it or stuff, but I just I don't have much interest in it myself. So I figured, okay, other normal people might have interest in observing the seeds and all of this. How come they don't see this contrast that is addressed here in this text? And not everybody's like me, who has zero interest in science and doesn't know, I mean, like, I don't know anything about agriculture or things like that. So, but normal people do know, and do know how things grow and how, so they are more in touch with that. I'm exclusively urban, and in addition to having very little interest. So how come they don't, how come they are, those of them who are atheists or polytheists, how come that's the case? That was my thought.
Okay, there are so many things going on here. First, if you look again at the text, it does not refer to anything, any example from science or from agriculture. You don't have to be someone who is in touch or knowledgeable about science or about agriculture or about anything. We all live in cities. Most of us grew up in cities, in urban whatever environments. Still, you eat food. Still, you see trees in your backyard or in the street. So it's talking about something that is somehow everyone somehow sees. Everyone has a sense of the seasons, like spring after winter. So first, that point is, it's not about being interested or not. It's not about having extra knowledge or not. It's just, if you look, you will see. If you make the intention and look, generally you look, you will see. You don't have to go and say, where do I find this plants and trees or this fruits or something? They are there, they are in your fridge, they are in your backyard, they are in the streets, everywhere. So this is why am I talking about this point? Because in the Quran also, we are most of the time given examples that are taken for granted, things that we take as ordinary. It does not give us examples that are supposed to be extraordinary. Where do I find? Or some miracle that science found or something like that. Because that will interest only, as you said, like some groups of people. It speaks to the general audience. And therefore, the examples are night and day, plants, water, fire, things that everyone interacts with, is in touch with on a daily level. Once we learn how to read the signs as miracles of divine power and knowledge and wisdom, then you can apply to something that people see as extraordinary, because then we would have learned that nothing is ordinary. Everything is a miracle of divine power and divine knowledge. Nothing, as tiny as it is or as ordinary as it seems, can exist without absolute power and knowledge and this and that, without divine will. It is the result of being. It is itself a testimony to that all-encompassing power and knowledge. So everything is an ayah, a miracle. The word ayah in the Quran is also used to refer to the miracles of the prophets. Now, talking about the atheists, we are reading this for ourselves, not for the atheists. We also read in one of the windows earlier that there are many, many, many reasons why people can disagree about one thing. And we gave that time the example of the moon for the Ramadan. If one person sees the hilal, the crescent, then it's valid because it says, I've seen it here, come and check. However, if 100 people say we didn't see it, that does not constitute an evidence, because it could be because I was inside the house. It could be because I was in an area where there were clouds. It could be it does not constitute evidence for or against anything. And we gave also the example of, if I enter a room and I say, oh, I couldn't find, let's say, a book. There is no book in this room. Maybe true, may not be, because have I checked everywhere that that book is not there? Even if I think I checked everywhere, it takes one person to come and find the book and show it to me. Even if 100 people looked in the room and didn't find it, if one person finds it, that's it. It's more, how do you say? It is evidence against all of them, because so when it comes to divine power and the necessary existence of God, people may have all kinds of stories and reasons why they don't want to even start looking, or they are looking in a way that is already prejudiced, or as we are told in the Quran, the first requirement, the pre-belief state is the state of humility, because the state of humility means I am ready to let go of the ego's false claim that I exist independently on my own, separate from everything. First, I'm not separate from everything. Like everything else, I exist in interconnection with the whole world. Second, I am being sustained in life. Whether it's in the beginning, whether it's God or not, is not the point. The point is, when there is humility, we are pre-ready. We are ready to accept that reality. Even in the beginning, we may have humility and we are unaware. But people who have humility, the moment they are made aware of their reality, they are ready to surrender to that reality, to accept the fact. Arrogance here, arrogance is not going around like with pride. It's inner arrogance. A person can look very meek, but have inner arrogance means the opposite of surrender, which is resisting. I am not going to accept the fact that I am being sustained. I'm not independent. So for what reason one is rejecting the reality, we don't know. We don't know in what form people can make a story to reject that. But we know that the evidence is clear, the fact is there, and now the whole question is, what do I choose? It's about me, it's not about the atheist or the others. There is another point here, which is, yes, without divine guidance, without being guided, although all these things are reasonable, and it makes sense when we read them, say, why didn't I think about it before? Yes, we do not think about it until it is brought to our attention. So lots of people may not even be aware of it. Those who are aware of something like this, they have either directly or indirectly benefited from a divine source. So it means that we need somehow divine guidance to realize this reality. But this reality, once we realize it, it's up to us what we do with it. To me, when I read this, I don't think about why atheists accept it or not. I think about myself. Does it make sense to me or not? I look at my own powerlessness. Does it point to an all-encompassing absolute power or not? And what are the consequences or the implications of that accepting or not accepting? And accepting or not accepting before the implication is a matter of conscience. Am I lying to myself? You know, last time we talked about stealing from God. This is what whoever steals is most likely to lie, because when we steal something, we are also lying about the owner. When we steal from God's property, when I say that this is my life, my body, my this, my that, I am stealing from God's property. I am lying also, because deep down, we all know, especially deep down, we all know it's not true. And when I read something like this, it becomes even harder to lie to myself. So personally, I feel like, am I ready to act in integrity, or do I still choose to carry on to live in lie and to delusion? Actually, it's a delusion, because together with this, what we talked about in the previous windows was also the reality of transience. Everything is fleeting. So when we are lying, stealing and lying, we are also deluding ourselves, because not only we are dependent on someone else's sustaining us in existence, well, they go together. We cannot even, we cannot even hold on to the moment. So who are we deluding? So I would suggest, let's just take this for ourselves before we think about the others. Now, I may have a curiosity, what's going on? Those questions will be answered, bi'idhnillah, when I imbibe this knowledge and live with it. And when it becomes my reality, I will start perceiving myself and the world differently. My interaction with the world will be different. And so I may be inspired with answers to those questions. But like staying out and as if this is like a piece of information about some kind of exotic things out there. What do they think about it? Like, or a political event happened. So what does this group think about it? And what does the other group think about it? I don't see this like this. This is something that is existential. As far as I'm concerned, this is the most important thing in my life. I give it the most priority because I may not wake up tomorrow, and I know that what matters is man Rabbuk. Who is your Rabb? And it does not only matter at death, it matters right now. Who is my Rabb matters right now. Remember in the was it the 12th window? ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. Whoever is my Rabb now makes a whole difference about the meaning of our life and how fulfilled or unfulfilled of how our heart finds tranquility and peace or is stuck in fears and anxiety and meaninglessness. That all depends on who is my Rabb right here and now. So it's a matter that is relevant to the meaning, the gist of our life, the purpose of our life, inshallah.
Great answer. Thank you. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you. So shall we, inshallah, have groups? And my question was going to be, how is this window, the 14th window, related to the 13th window? If you remember, the 13th window was about how everything makes tasbih, glorifies God. It was the famous ayah from Surah Al-Isrâ. And there is nothing but وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ. There is nothing but glorifies him with praise. How is this related to everything making tasbih? Is the question okay? If the question is clear, I don't know who can put us in groups and then keep the time, inshallah. Is it okay?
All right. Yeah, Bismillah. I will give it a.
Thank you. Thank you.
Inshallah, this comes together. How many do you think? Like 4 or 5 minutes, or a little less?
4 or 5 minutes. Usually, people warm up after 4 or 5 minutes, and then when they warm up, they can share with all of us, inshallah.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so let me make the magic happen.
Thank you.
okay, everyone should have been invited to join a breakout room. Dr. Yamina, everybody should be coming back in the next 36 seconds, inshallah.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Welcome back, everybody. So we had four breakout groups.
So maybe we can listen to the sharing, inshallah. Please go ahead. Don't wait to be invited.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Yamina, everybody. This is with Nurtala and Sister Hanan and Brother Mohsen and all of us, Sister Nurtala also. So what I found as they linked it up with the 13th window, I think that this here, right here, when we look at the with our poverty and with our weakness and our sense of powerlessness, we ideally with following that connection with Tawheed, with oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are supposed to feel that still there is nothing lost, that these are our powers. This is somehow the other, our, we need to believe in it and we need to feel like that this is something that is actually risk, as much as I can relate to your previous lectures. And the other one is that when in these moments of deprivation, we can somehow the other link our spiritual existence to the divine. That's where the luminous happens. That's where that spark in heart will occur. I know for me it occurred when today I get to talk to some of my doctors, nurses, and a radiologist, and I tell them that I have some skin discoloration on my shoulders ever since I started taking chemo, and I'm thinking of not continuing with this treatment unless and until you tell me what my prognosis is like. Is it really worth it, or do I have not a lot of time left to worry about this treatment and its painfulness on top of every other loss I have? And their answers were, it's your decision, maybe you should talk to medical oncologist. So when I felt really like disillusioned, I said, okay, you know what, at this point I have nothing much to lose. You know, I just want that whatever time I have, I do some good and don't pain my family also, and appreciate the comfort of their generosity and their presence in my existence. And if as I long for my husband and as I'm drawing closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I need to be prepared mentally if I'm going to suddenly go into the realm of the spiritual. And honestly, these windows are helping me with other Sufi texts that I'm reading, and your lectures make me think that this is important. This is something I should have done maybe 30 years ago. From 10 years onwards, we should know these things. I mean, in our community, we stop telling two kids at 10 years of age that because they are so raw in their mind and they're so scared that don't take them to cemetery or don't talk about death or nearing death in front of them. But, you know, learning it all now at age 42, facing the reality of death, seeing loved one passed on, pets and people, and now facing death myself, I'm realizing that how important it is to be ready with this armor. Because for a believing woman and man, I think drawing closer to Allah is the only shade and light that I need at this point, other than my prayers of my parents, you know. So thank you. This is how I think. And the group shared that, you know, tasbih, Hanan said that tasbih is important. And Sister Nurtala also shared that it's important to look at our connection between the windows, the two windows, the 13th and the 14th window. I hope I'm interpreting for you guys correctly, you ladies correctly. And Brother Mohsin did write, but he said that I joined in a little bit later. So he didn't say much in the chat, but inshallah, I'm sure he does have a good, maybe in future he will inshallah share.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Actually, it's not, we are in need of remembering this all the time, all of us, all the time, inshallah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Thank you, Sarah. Anyone
Thank
else?
you.
Inshallah?
Sister Rima, you want to go from our...
You can go, Ziba. Thank you.
Subhanallah. So we were discussing about the last window, which was about tasbih, and this window again, it almost reframes it in another way of how everything around us is making tasbih, means it's proclaiming their neediness and their powerlessness in front of Allah, and they are proclaiming that only, like, it's they have no power, but it's through Allah that every action is being taken with amr of Allah. It's being executed, and so and Sister Rima was saying the same thing, like like human beings are the only one who have been given choice to make tasbih, but everything else does it willingly, without it, automatically, without being so. And the other thing which we discussed was about the cultural aspect, like how we grew up. Even like Subhanallah, using the word Subhanallah has changed over, like for me as well, like being from an Indian subcontinent. Subhanallah was being used as a wow statement. When you say wow for something, we used to say Subhanallah. And then I was exposed to my Arab sisters in Saudi Arab, and then I came here. So I was amazed how they used Subhanallah. Like even with they used to say, my son is sick, Subhanallah. And I used to be really confused. I said, how can someone say wow for, my son is sick, wow. So like we bring cultural baggage to these, if we don't understand these terminologies in depth, then it's a very shallow thing, and it doesn't even make us realize what, like how much deep this thinking is, and how much we can benefit from this. And the thought which came to us was that these two, this window, especially the one which we did today, it gave us two aspects, like it gave a feeling of humility as well as hope. Like humility in the sense that nothing is in our power, everything belongs to Allah, and it's through His amr. And hope is that in situations where we feel overwhelmed, and like maybe if you just take example of COVID, like we think that, oh, I might get infected and all that stuff. But if Allah's amr is not there, that virus has no power if Allah didn't will it to be to infect someone. So it gives us hope also, like nothing is, it's all in Allah's hands. So put your full trust in Allah, and then you feel, relaxed. So they are both, it gives to both hope as well as humility together. That was our sharing.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Thank you. Thank you. Alhamdulillah.
I'll share for our group. We were with Alia and Sister Safina. And first, Alia mentioned how the pattern here was in seeing the contrasts. So from looking at lifelessness here, and then it's sprouting all of a sudden into life, or like Nursi says, poverty, something dry and looking totally lifeless like now, and then all of a sudden sprouting into wealth. It's that contrast that catches our attention, that is a sign that begs our attention. And I mentioned, Safina mentioned how that is how the tasbih happens. And I was feeling like the life force was highlighted here, whereas the 13th window, we talked about the order and the form, the way that the creation is ordered and formed indicates just a most powerful conscious being. And then in this 14th window, I like how it's timely with the winter and the snow, and I just love that there is this attention to this life force that awakens. And I just think the terminology really is very radical in a way, because it just takes, like the sisters were sharing, like what we learned in school, and just totally shatters it and gives it a whole new meaning with whole new words that just, you know, instead of saying spring, like, oh yes, it's just winter, it's just spring, this is saying that there's a life force that awakens and is alive and present. And just truly, once we see that, I mentioned that it reminds me of the egg yolk, the window that talked about the egg yolk and how it just bursts into a living being. Here in the second, I think it was the second paragraph, or in the first, it was saying about the matter, and then matter just forms into somehow as living beings. And truly, once we see that, it does awaken that heedless aspect of us.
Yeah, subhanallah. Alhamdulillah. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else, inshallah?
Go ahead, Amina and Samina.
If someone's speaking, you're on mute.
Oh, yep. Samina and Amina, go ahead.
So I kind of, Assalamu alaikum everyone. So I kind of, I think the question for us, I have to think about this again, but what Sister Amina was saying, I kind of like that. I wish she would repeat that for us. If she's still on. Yeah.
I'm on. I'm actually common ground healing up there. I forgot to sign out of another Zoom room before I came here. One of the things that came alive to me is this need for so many people in many different religions to have that direct experience that I believe our cultures keep us so busy that I know for myself, I'm often in the mind world, and I'd much rather be settled in my body and more heart-centered. And that people are really hungry for that direct experience, a taste of the beloved of God without even knowing it. And that religion comes alive to people when they get to experience the heart of religion through humanity, sometimes through nature. Something in nature might awaken somebody to the presence and the power of the Creator. But to see the divine names enacted out in humanity is what, for me, helps to awaken the heart and give me that taste of something beyond myself and created things. It's that flow, that God working through that person to awaken hearts. So, thank you.
We were also discussing the connection between everything making tasbih. I think, Samina, you said that if everything is making tasbih, then the connection between powerlessness and absolute power exists. The problem, then we discussed about, is it then our cells that are making tasbih, but our consciousness might not be there. And Samina said that maybe we're not aware that we're making tasbih, because Amina said if everything is making tasbih, it's good to know that the heart is where that glorification and the awareness of the absolute power of God. So I asked, if everything is making tasbih, then where is the conflict? How come there is conflict? I mean, it is a fascinating, to me, I'm still thinking about that distinction between absolute, the lifelessness and the absolute.
So
yes, that for me, it's fascinating. It requires a lot more reflection. All these connections on ongoing basis.
I think what it was, Maha, that, I think the question was more like, okay, everything is glorifying, everything is glorifying Allah, everything. So I think my line of thinking was, how do those things know that they're glorifying their Lord? What if we don't know that? What if we unconsciously not know that we are glorifying? What is blocking us from getting to that point? I think that's where...
It doesn't matter whether they know or not, as far as we're concerned. What matters is that we know and that we are aware. And we are only responsible for that. When we are aware and we are conscious, we will have the answer to, do they know, are they conscious? Because consciousness is aware of consciousness. When I come from the ego, from disconnected from everything, when I do not identify with the heart and the soul, I see other beings, including other human beings, as physical entities. Maybe I will, their titles, their looks, what they wear is what matters most. Status and things will be aware. And it will be the same with nature or other things. A tree is a tree. It's just physical matter with some kind of life. We're not even, it doesn't matter to us. But when we start living from the heart, identifying with our true being, our true conscious, more aware of who we truly are, then we will start being aware of the malakut aspect of everything. And an example that I always give is, it's like having an alien come on Earth and think that we are only physical matter, like the body is only flesh and bones. And we know, even if we come from the ego, we know that we are more than flesh and bones. We think, all the emotions and thoughts and all that. Now, when we grow in our awareness, when we come from the soul, we are even more than that. And so it is with the person in ghafla or in disbelief who interacts with the world as if the alien who doesn't know what human being is, but the believer who is the conscious, the true believer, or the person who's cultivated their humanity, their awareness, their consciousness, they will become aware, they will communicate with things at other levels, they will be made aware that a tree is much more than its physical being, that a mountain is much more than just rocks or physical just matter. And then when the Prophet ﷺ says that Uhud, we love Uhud and Uhud loves us, it will make sense. We love Uhud, you say, okay, well, I don't know what he loves in a mountain that has nothing. Actually, it doesn't have vegetation, or it looks like all dry rocks. Okay, you may like something, but how about it loves us? You will start living at a totally different dimension. We become aware of things within us, and that will project onto the world. One thing that was in common in most of the answer is that the 14th window is a kind of elaboration on the manner of tasbih, meaning the 14th window tells us yet another way of how everything makes tasbih of its creator. Makes tasbih means reflect the beautiful names of God. And remember, tasbih is a negation of shirk. It means it is not from us. We are not the creator, the makers, the sustainer of all this. Whatever you are seeing, the riches, the knowledge, the strength, the power, all belongs to him. La ilaha illallah. So it is a statement of rejecting shirk through affirming the beautiful names of God. And here, the 14th window is telling us another way of seeing how everything is making tasbih and how we can apply and make tasbih. Not only we make tasbih within us, but we start within the world out there by together with the creation, by means of the creation, by witnessing their tasbih. We will also participate, and then we can apply the same thing to our own being, fil afaqi wa fi anfusihim, in the outer world and within themselves. Unless we apply it within ourselves, it would not last, and it won't be true testimony through shahada, and it won't be true tasbih, and it will not increase our iman or our ihsan. Ihsan means that consciousness of living in the presence of the divine, of God. Because unless I can experience and accept and stay with my powerlessness, with my weakness, with my lifelessness, and see how they are mirroring the absolute power and strength of another who is subjugating. Remember, there was a window on to subjugating everything to us right here and now. I will not truly know God as my Rabb, my sustainer, all powerful, all knowing, all compassionate, all generous. I will be only talking about him. It will not be my reality. I would not be able to glorify him because I will still be in shirk. He is very powerful, but I have a little power as well. I have a little strength as well. I know some things as well. As if I still think like that, then I cannot be. Tawheed does not come into 80% it belongs to God. Let's say 90% to God, 10% to me. Tawheed, only the light of Tawheed brightens up our world so we can praise God and glorifying Him and truly feel at peace, that we can feel relieved that we have this support, we are not alone, only when it is 100% it's Him, 0% is me. Because if it's 10% me, that's not God. 90% is not God. It's my own imagination. I am still in a state of delusion. We can only see His power in our powerlessness. Now we say, but we don't live in this state all the time. Yes, but the gray of our life is a moment of total whiteness, total surrender, and then forgetting. When I'm claiming 10%, I'm claiming something. It doesn't matter whether 10% or not. The moment I claim something, because 10% cannot exist on its own. Truly, 10% means somehow I am in control, as if. That's why there are Qudsi hadith that God does not accept any, or not only hadith, actually, the Quran is full of rejecting any partners, because it doesn't make sense. We are only doing that when we are in a state of, I would say it's a state of heedlessness, but it's a state of heedlessness that is the result of a state of being unwilling to surrender. And that being willing or unwilling is totally up to us. It's not because we don't have enough evidence or not. It could be at the beginning, but once we have the evidence, it does not necessarily mean that all the evidence is out there, it's clear, that's it, we will surrender. No, some people may still, that's what free will is. We are free to choose to not surrender. When we surrender, then we internalize the tasbih and we become part of the tasbih. Actually, last week we talked about human being the chef d'orchestre, the orchestra chef, because we can make sense and understand and participate in all kinds of glorification of all kinds of beings within, without, and within. So the 14th window is teaching us yet another way of how all things are making tasbih of its creator. Many of you shared that. In the Quran, for instance, in Surah An-Nur, Surah 24, in Ayah 41, we are told, do you not see, Alam Tara, do you not see that it is God whose glory all that is in the heavens and on earth extol, that all that is in the heavens and on earth glorify, even the birds as they spread their wings? Each knows indeed his salat, his prayer, and his tasbih, and his glorification. And God has full knowledge of all what they do. So the whole thing is, do we see? It says here, look. When we look, we see. Of course, we have to learn how to look, and that's why we need divine guidance. We have to intend to look, and then we see. And in the Quran, we are told, do you see that everything that is in the heavens and on earth glorifies Him, and each of them knows. So there was, I'm reading this because the question was, do they know? They know their salat, they know their tasbih. When would we know, would I know that they know? When I know my tasbih, I'll realize that they know their tasbih. And of course, yes, go ahead.
I've been thinking about this, and it was my question before you even brought it up. And I guess I just, on this topic of witnessing the orchestra, the creations making tasbih, I guess because of my, schooling education, that's very much has nothing to do with this. And then sort of feeling like, pre-Islam, pre-really studying the Quran, just feeling like a presence, like many do, like Amina says, like in the trees and feeling something like that. But then also then getting into studying and then hearing that this concept of the malakuti side, so there's an angelic side that gives us meaning. So when I look at the tree and then or people, for example, look at mountains, and mountains is people that have nothing to do with the Quran or whatever, friends of mine will say, wow, how majestic. So then you see how this name just reached them. And so now I'm like trying to fill in this gap, because Zahra beautifully shared something about trees recently. And maybe Zahra, afterwards you can share, because it was something so profound about how they communicate and notice somehow the human presence. I think when people walked out, she said something that was very beautiful. And I guess my question is, when we notice our tasbih, you're saying then, and I think that makes sense. It's like when I notice how I am truly somehow given life, and life doesn't belong to me, it's flowing in and out of me, and I don't know how it is, it's just that way. Then I can see how, oh wow, this flower is the same and this tree is the same. But now, and this, I'm not sure if this is even a relevant question, but when it comes to that interaction, I feel like my interaction was richer before really maybe studying the Quranic aspect of it, because I would feel like this hadith of the Mount Uhud, like horizontal maybe even, but just this connection with the creation in a very special way. But then learning that it's not really the mountain, it's not really the tree, it's just, it's the malakuti side, it's the meaning that I'm connected to. Then I kind of discarded somewhere.
It's the malakuti side of the tree. It's like let's say it's not Sarah, it's the soul of Sarah. What does it mean? Whatever, for instance, if you travel, there are chains of mountains, you feel the beauty and the majesty, right? Now the beauty and the majesty and their effect on me, that is the ayah that is going to take me beyond, that is going to tell me that something is going on here. It's just like when you are interacting with another human being. You can't say it's not this human being, it's the malakut, or it's ruh. If we are doing this, it means we didn't go through the process. We are just learning by heart and coming back, applying it. I find God, I find the beautiful names of God in my interaction. That's why I always say, like, stay there. For instance, if you see a beautiful tree, a beautiful flower, something that attracts your attention, don't just say, oh, it's very beautiful, subhanallah, mashallah, Allah created it, and then pass. Stay with it. Feel the awe, feel the majesty, appreciate the beauty. Listen to the impact it has on me. That impact, that the beauty I see out there, and suddenly there is this pleasure in the whole body, in the heart is responding to something out there. What is going on? The interaction is the ayah telling me that what I'm seeing there is a reflection of something from beyond. That person, that tree, that flower are like mirrors or channels to the name, for instance, beautiful, El Jamil, the name, this name, whatever the names, even if we don't have to label them, but something divine, something that transcends those things. So the whole thing is, I cannot reject the thing and then say, and then they don't exist, because I find God through his creation, through the powerlessness, but the thing itself is powerless, yet there is power, activities that needs power that are going on there. So I recognize that this power, this thing, being powerless, myself being powerless, being lifeless from myself, I don't have life inherent to me. I am mirroring, I am a mirror, a channel to something that is not of this world, something that transcends all creation. So La ilaha, we're not saying there is nothing. That thing is not God, but I have to have a thing that is reflecting. It is a mirror. It is not God. It is not source. Does it make sense?
Yamina and Sarah, like we were like studying, discussing briefly today the name of Allah, Al-Wadud, and that name, like the affection, like the one, the feeling of affection, the love and affection that you have. And when you were speaking now, it, like especially when you speak about beauty and majestic images and this always caught my attention. So like, you know, I walk by and I will, like, I'll have to stop, like, you know, I hear them saying like, look at me, like, you know, and now, like, at least, and I understand what you're saying, like now I try to look and say, what are they saying, like which names am I seeing? And sometimes that
they are glorifying. So yeah, they are my friends, they are glorifying God, telling me, see, look how whoever is making me, how he's making me. Look, you like it.
And this, like, for me, this is a little bit mental. So what I found a little bit easier to do is to like do what you asked us to do before when we were in DNS Center, is just to, like, as you're enjoying this feeling that comes to you, just think of how affectionate God is, that he made this creation to give me this feeling. And I thought, like, you know, even just that, just staying there and just taking it in and saying, like, you know, just like, you know, subhanallah, like, look how I'm feeling, like these feelings inside me. Allah al-Wadud, like the one who's affectionate, is creating this affection, like he's giving me this affection through looking at his creation, and just stop there. Like, I think I was trying to do a lot of mental work of like which names, and but then just that simple one,
no
like
one
I
will
feel something, this is affection.
Yeah, no one will ask us which name it is.
But I'm asking myself. I'm standing there asking myself.
We stay there and feel it until we are anchored in that feeling. And then لهم قلوب يعقلون بها, because the ayah says لا يعقلون بها for the disbelievers. The disbelievers, they have heart with which they don't reason. We will reason with the heart. When we are anchored in those feelings, then we can start reflecting with the data, the premises of the heart. It's saying something otherworldly is going on here. We will recognize that it does not belong to the powerless. Let's say if it is a tree, the example was a tree. Why? To the extent that I do not attribute qualities to myself. If I attribute life or knowledge or anything to myself, I will be bound to attribute it to the tree, and I will be stuck in the horizontal realm, and I will have to connect to God mentally. It must be from God, but to the extent that I do the inner work and stay with my own helplessness, with my own weakness, with my own powerlessness, with my own, in this example, when something comes from the tree and I feel at all at the beauty or majesty or something, and I recognize that I have no control over it, that it is totally done unto me, then in that state of being, in that state of surrender, there is no way I will ascribe the beauty and the majesty to the tree itself, because I'm already acknowledging that I am totally a recipient. I am totally passive. I'm just receiving. And so I start connecting with the tree at a level of co-creation, walking the same path, glorifying God. And so I will glorifying that beauty, that majesty that does not belong to this world. So in the beginning, instead of just I want to avoid the how do you say, the formulas that we can repeat without reflection, which is I am experiencing the beautiful names of God. Okay, I'm experiencing the beautiful names of God. Let's make a list. Which names? No. Let's say I'm experiencing something otherworldly. Let's go away from these words, as Ziba was saying, because culturally there are lots of vocabulary, terminology, not only because they are associated with some other things, but because I take them for granted without realizing. So I think I've done the work when I haven't. I skip the most important steps because once I say the word, I think it's the end, whereas it's only the beginning. I don't still know what those words mean. So I stay, the tree, I come, there is a tree, and I feel filled with this awe, this admiration, this appreciation for this majesty, this beauty, whatever. The name is not important. Stay with the feeling until you are anchored, and stay with the awareness that something is coming through me, not from me. Because personally, before learning all this, I also felt majesty and going through mountains, chains of mountains, and you feel like the beauty and the majesty. And I would stop and really look, and I was not alone, and we would really look, and oh, that time, mashallah, just meant wow. But the difference is that time, I was not saying it's from me, it's not from me. There was no awareness. Now the difference is I am aware that it is not from me. First, I have to acknowledge and testify, make the shahada that as I came across the tree, something came through me. I am made to appreciate it. This is the first step. Without it, we can't carry on. I am made to appreciate it. That's the difference between the ghafla state, horizontal perception, and the waking up that will take us to the vertical dimension, inshallah.
Thank you, Dr. Amir. That was very clarifying. I love the connection with the soul, like the way we love someone for being a means of delivering you certain qualities that you needed to have or experience, like Amina was saying. And I think there's a lot for everyone who's listening to sit with this awareness now of noticing what flows through you when you interact with something that you see. And I like that, as opposed to like, what do you feel? What do you see? Like, it just, what's passing through me. And please, Sister Zahra, before we go, like, share what you shared with us about trees, because I think it's so beautiful and complementary to this. My last piece, I guess I would say, is, so for example, today in New York, there's snow coming down. And in the past, pre-Quran study, Islam study, I love the snow was something that would just come out of my mouth all the time. And then because of this strong attraction I felt to it, I did some internal work and studying, alhamdulillah, with Dr. Ali. And I came to now, when it's snowing today, I can look at it and see like transformative power. I can see I can feel awe and true, like a chilling sensation of a one that's transforming the world, that has immense power and ability.
Mm-hmm. Because
and so I just swallow that, and I kind of I don't feel. So my question then is like, the part that just trips me up is, I love Uhud and Uhud loves us. I'm like, did I miss? Because I don't see the snow and say I love snow now. I say, wow, what an amazing one. Like, what a powerful transformation this is, and what a message this is for me, that the whole world could be transformed in an instant. But then I don't feel like I love the snow. So then when the Prophet ﷺ says something like, I love Uhud and Uhud loves us, I'm like, wait, should I love the snow? Like, did I just disregard snow now as not
necessarily? You can replace love with appreciate, with any verb that is coming through you, because even the love, it's not like in my hand. Whether I feel majesty or awe or love or something, it's something I find in me, just like I find the transformation out there. But this transformation is somehow attracting your attention. It's having an impact on you. You are finding something, whatever, whether it's awe or appreciation, or the name is not important. What we find in the world out there is amazing, and it is making tasbih. And then with this understanding, I look at myself and I find that I am transformed by the transformation out there. I am being transformed. Something is happening to me. It is not me who decides about it. And then that awareness is going to change how my next relationship with the snow or anything else is going to be.
Sarah, I suggest now that you are in a good place where it's snowing, just take out your cell phone and just put your thoughts with the snow together and send them back to us. I'll be waiting to.
So was Zahra going to?
Yeah, I just I also put it in the chat. I read this article. It's by a forest ecologist and the research that she's done, and it's about kind of how trees communicate. Underground they have this network, and I think she's finding out of like fungi, and they communicate with one another, and like they cooperate. And so like one tree can kind of sense the need of another plant nearby or another tree nearby, and they might like send resources to like nourish that tree. And so her studies are showing that if trees can perceive so much, that maybe they can perceive us too when we kind of are around them. And so it reminded me kind of about the we love Ohad and Ohad loves us, like this communication between us and we are creations, we are God's creations, trees are God's creations, right? So this like interconnectedness and this communication that takes place. So it really brought that to mind, and I got like chills reading that article. I thought that was really beautiful.
Thank you for sharing.
So it looks like this is a whole language. I was thinking, is this a way of communication, and where it starts, that the nucleus starts with the human consciousness about God and the relationship of between anything and between everything, basically. There is a cell, like a cellular level, the cell starts there, I suppose. I'm thinking out loud that the cell starts there, where a person, if they allow themselves or exert an effort to make the connection, then a lot more things will start connecting with each other in our minds, in our awareness. Mm-hmm. So the most important, the most critical link is that personal awareness, yes, of making the relationship between A and B. It like it starts with a fetus. This is the fetus, I suppose. And then after that, it wouldn't be surprising that the trees, because when Zahra was speaking about Susan Samrad's work, if trees are communicating with each other and maybe communicating with us, then anything and everything, then snow with humans, humans with stone, humans with each other. Of course, I'm very human-centric, so I was thinking, what about people from a distance, people we don't know, so on and so forth. But I guess the fetus, if I don't know what else, I don't know if there's a better word than a fetus, it starts with I decide to see and I decide to make a connection between any one thing and God. Then it becomes, the whole universe then becomes, it's like a ripple effect, and it becomes reflective and connected, I suppose.
Yeah. In the 12th word, this is the 33rd word, in the 12th word, there are different principles. It's a comparison of materialist philosophy and science and Quranic wisdom. So this materialist philosophy, he says, in one of the principles, there are many. Philosophy accepts force as its point of support in social life. It considers its aim to be benefits. The principle of its life, it recognizes to be conflict, or conflict and struggle. It holds the bond between communities to be whatever, nationalism and racialism. Its fruits are gratifying the appetites of the soul and increasing human needs. It's artificial needs so that you can sell more and control more. However, the mark of force is aggression. The mark of benefit, since they are insufficient for every desire, is jostling and tussling, while the mark of conflict is trifle. And the mark of racialism, since it is nourished by devouring others, is aggression. It is for this reason that it has negated the happiness of humankind. As for Quranic wisdom, so as you said, it all starts from the first principle starts with how to see the creation as ayat. The second principle regards personal life, and the third one is social life. As for Quranic wisdom, its point of support is haqq instead of force. It takes virtue and God's pleasure as its aims in place of benefits. It takes the principle of mutual assistance as the principle of life in place of the principle of conflict. And it takes the ties of religion, of class, to be the ties bonding communities. Its aim is to form a barrier against the lusts of the ego, urge the spirit to sublime matters, satisfy the high emotions, and urging human beings to perfections, making him a true human being. As the mark of truth of haqq is accord. The mark of virtue is solidarity. The mark of mutual assistance is hastening to help and assist one another. The mark of religion is brotherhood and attraction. And the mark of reining in and tethering the ego and leaving the spirit free and urging it towards perfection is happiness in this world and in the next.
Dr. Yamina, I have a question and a comment and an advice-seeking request. In my profession, given this line of thought that everything is connected from, of course, from a Tawhid point of view, from a purely faith point of view, often the clients who I ever saw who disclosed with me that they have sexual orientation that is not heterosexual, that everything is about love in the nature, and we are supposed to be in love, and we are supposed to be one, and animals and plants and love among the family members and the brotherhood and the sisterhood. So what if sexuality is also included in homosexual relationships? And they do share. I have actually worked at Brown University under a professor in her 70s who also had her identity as a homosexual person. And her whole writing thesis is this, that, you know, in nature, in flora and fauna, we see asexual reproduction or same gender mating and relationship. So I worry that if somebody who misinterprets something that is being said in a totally different Islamic context, or in the Sufi context, or in the mystical love between Shams of Tabriz and Rumi as student and teacher, the reverence, the respect that we have for our teachers is not misconstrued by somebody else, and then they can say, well, this is true of your own religion too, that love is a theme in the unification of the creation. And the other point, the question that I have is a clarification around that, so that I can do a better job in my profession, at least when I'm talking to Muslim therapists, that my view is very clear. And I know I tread an ethical boundary here with my profession, that, oh, the moment you are going to talk to a client who explains to you that I have a LGBTQ background, gender identity wise, how am I supposed to address that when I am proudly telling everybody that I'm a Muslim mental health therapist? One. The other thing is that when in our children I see this sense of that I want to have a pet or I want to have a plant, 10-year-old, 5-year-old, 16-year-old, and then we all perhaps have unintentionally done that, and now I regret it, that if I didn't give time to that relationship with a pet or a plant, didn't give them water or stayed out of home for 2 days longer than another living being with emotions and feelings and not able to talk to us in our language, nor do they have their own kind with them. I have one cat, or I had 4 parakeets and they went down to 2, and then the 2 died one after another. I give my own example, even though I tried my best to care for them. And while I got ill, I realized that how precious these other nature connectedness relations are. Because if I didn't have my cat, the memory of my husband and our home and my parakeets, who I brought over to my parents' home, would be that much void of the happy memories that he and I made with our pets in our home for 2.5 years. And so how can we encourage our children, Muslim children and all children, that look, nature is not a toy. You don't play with nature just when you want to, and you don't pollute it and you don't contaminate it. I wish that in this whole treatise by this Windows explanation that we are doing, perhaps you can enlighten us that is there a reference to childhood innocence also? And perhaps we have that childhood innocence, because in Quran Allah Ta'ala says that when I took the first oath from you in your first death, before your first death, in your first living, you took that oath and that covenant should stand, and I expect that it should stand. Is that childlike innocence and purity gone when we come into this earth? And now we are in a process of wanting to do a jihad with ourselves in a way where we need to carry ourselves, align ourselves, attune ourselves back to that oath with total purity. And where we might be lacking, because of which then we have the unrest, the dis-ease, the complaining attitude, the havis for this dunya, whereas my soul now craves to be at peace, whether it is from my pain of the illness or my longing for my husband. Even then, I am looking forward to a material gain, that I need to have a heaven. I don't want to go to hell. And in that sense, I think that Allah Ta'ala is so generous that even then He allowed us a physical world. Just the other day, my 6-year-old niece asked my mother when she was playing with me that what is heaven? Because there was a prayer book nearby and I was just talking about it, and she caught on to the word heaven. And she asked my mother, Da, what is heavens? And my mother said, Beta, it is a very beautiful world. But then we stopped at it. So how do we address these themes at what age with children, so that we don't scare them, but we also make them fortified in their faith from a very early, appropriate age? Thanks.
Oh, mashallah, there's so many issues here.
Sorry, Dr. Yamina. I think and whatever you teach me, it percolates and then I just vomit it out. Sorry.
Oh, I will just say this, that we can only teach as much as we are.
Mm-hmm.
And if nature and other beings and other human beings are, the more I value them, the more they have meaning, the more they are sacred to me, the more it's going to reflect to whoever is around me. So if the child learned how everything is sacred, especially life is sacred, then do we still need to teach not to do this, because you're already teaching what to do and how to respect everything? Because if we say don't do this and we don't know, the person doesn't know why, it's not going to work, I feel. So I still see it as primarily learning ourselves and it's not only a learning, but acting on what we learn so that we are transformed. We are transformed so that our longing for our beloveds will all be ayat and reminders for our true longing, which is the longing for God. Without the longing for the true beloved, when we find the true beloved, then if he is, then everything is. And if he doesn't, if he's not there, then there is nothing. So what we truly and what we love and long for in our beloveds is all from him. And that is something that it's not something that reflecting is not a mental activity. It is primarily something meditating, reflecting, tadabbur, tafakkur is done with the heart. We need to stay with those feelings, with those until we feel satisfied, we feel the connection with the beloved. And then all those beloveds are like the mirrors, the channels, the paths that takes us back to him. Inshallah. So I will just, I want to end with an ayah. Maybe I did share it before, but I want to share it again, which is Surah Al-Sajda. So it's a Sajda ayah. So inshallah we'll prostrate after. Surah Al-Sajda is Surah 32. In ayah 15 we are told, the only people who truly believe in our ayat, our here is God speaking, in our ayat, our signs, are those who, when they are reminded of them, when they are reminded of the ayat, they fall down in prostration, in sajda, and make tasbih of their Rabb, of their sustainer with praise, and they are never arrogant. إنما يؤمن بآياتنا الذين إذا ذكروا بها خروا سجدا وسبحوا بحمد ربهم وهم لا يستكبرون. Just meditate on this ayah. The only people who believe, if you don't do this, you are not truly a believer. In God's ayat are those when they are reminded of their ayat, because we may forget, they fall down in prostration. So now we fall down physically, but we also have to be in a state, a hal of prostration, of surrender before God. When we are in prostration, we are zero, total powerlessness, total lifelessness, total weakness. Everything is from you. And if it is true for me, it is true for everything, everyone, and everything else. And make tasbih. Only in that state we can truly make tasbih. وَسَبَّحُوا بِحَمْدِ رَبِّهِمْ. They glorify their Rabb, their sustainer, with praise. Because if we glorify God, then it means we are not the maker. Nothing is the maker. Nothing is the source of power except you, praising him. You are the source of everything we long for. It is not me. It is not my husband. It is not the pet. It is not. They are all mirrors reflecting your beauty, your love, your power, your generosity, your caring for us. And they are never arrogant. Inshallah, we'll stop here. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. If you have anything to say, say it, because we will resume inshallah our Wednesday, the 15th window on January the 13th, inshallah. And Friday, we are meeting with Sister Amina. And on Saturday at 8 p.m., we are meeting with those who are following the 2 steps, gratitude and istighfar program, inshallah, living, cultivating awareness, inshallah. So if you have anything to share or say, or please go ahead before we...
On Sunday, it looks like we're meeting for the question and answer.
Inshallah. We'll announce it on Friday, inshallah. Thank you, Ma.
And also a reminder of the Receiving Noor annual retreat, which is December 24th to December 26th. So please check that out and register. It's all virtual, so hopefully it's accessible to folks.
So it's next week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, inshallah. There will be 2 sessions a day, 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening. Inshallah.
So I guess we could just make the intention or renew the intention of making sujood, not just physically, but soul-wise.
And
whenever we are confronted, whenever we see something that has meaning.
Yeah, the physical sujood helps, because the body, you know, when we are in sujood, it helps cultivate that humility as well. Yes, true. Or we wait until when we are anchored, that's where we reach that place of we want to make sujood. And when we are anchored in that feeling with the awareness that it is not from me. When we are not aware, we don't claim it's from me, but we are not aware that it's not from me. So we act as if it is from me. So here, the most important starting point is I am aware that I'm receiving something. I am in touch with something. That's where the whole process starts. And that's where when I'm anchored in that feeling, I will feel